Hi everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nubraids, where today I'm joined by someone you all know. It's HellHades. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Words can be hard sometimes, but
I'm doing fine.
You're doing okay. We just recorded a video over on HellHades channel where we were talking about mistakes that are like the most common mistakes to make in the game, with some embarrassing confessions. Mostly for me, I think, in the embarrassing confessions. But there you go. What we're doing for today's video, I actually wanted to get HellHades on and pick his brain a bit. It's one of my favorite articles that he ever did. It's originally published here, it says November 30th, 2020, which is all about the stages of the game in Raid, right? So where should you be early game? Where should you be in mid game? You know, what are the points you should be at for like dungeons, clan boss, I guess Hydra now, arena, all that sort of stuff. So I want to pick his brain a bit. And let's go through it and see like how things have changed, if they have changed, in 2022. So, yeah.
It's worth saying as well. So the reason why I wrote this originally, I was asked on stream a lot. It's like, I'm 120 days in. Am I mid game? Am I end game? And it's like, well, the amount of days you've played is totally irrelevant because you could be somebody who spends a lot of money. You could be somebody who plays a lot more than someone else.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to try and do is to define it by where I see different areas of the game. And generally they should all kind of follow each other if you're playing the game well. So yeah, and I just kind of wanted to lay it out there. This is what I view as an early game player. This is what I view as a mid game player.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was actually quite fun to do.
Yeah. So I've got high quality production values as always here in Nubraids channel. We've got the untitled notepad to start typing some stuff up. So yeah, I was saying before we started recording, I was delayed 3 hours in an airport flying back from holiday, and we were sick at the time. So I got lots of time to type up some different ideas and all this sort of stuff for this. It's like for some of the game stages and coming up with some of my ideas. So we break down the early game first then. So I would break the early game into 3 different sections. I don't know if you've done that here, but I would say I would just define it as like a beginner. Then something I call the super early game, and then what I'm calling the core early game. So I'm breaking it down more. And of course, feel free to object at any point if you disagree, because this is me just making up a whole lot of shite, basically. But I would say the beginner is like, I don't know if you agree with this, but getting that first champion up to level 60.
First 60 is massive, yeah. That's, I say, I've done a couple of free-to-play series, and
yeah.
Basically what I say is, you have to get a level 60 champion, and it needs to be your focus above all other things. Until you've done that, I actually would suggest you're not even playing the game yet.
Yeah, 100%.
You're pre-early game. Absolutely has to be the thing that you focus on. Yeah.
So like first champ to 60, because like that's what starts to open up a lot of the game. And it's like, I feel like as that beginner, you're just learning how the buttons and stuff actually work. Yeah. I don't know if when you started, but you're probably manualing on 1x speed for like campaign.
Or you're trying to just auto absolutely everything. Yeah. With really no idea how to make that work. And the thing is, if you don't have a 60, it slows down how quickly you can get your next 60. It slows down
100%.
It slows down everything. Everything is slower and harder. And I would imagine there's a fair amount of people that leave the game before they even get 60 through frustration.
I 100% think so. I'm saying it probably takes about 1 to 2 weeks. I did this once at the start of this year, and I think it took me 1.5 weeks. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair for a normal player.
Yeah. And pretty much like that's the main thing you're doing. I know you've got some tips in here, like the novice tournament, if you can win that.
So winning the novice tournament gets you a load of speed gear, which will not get gear to that level probably for the next month. So actually, if you can win that novice tournament on day 1 and 2, whatever it is, and to do that, you also then beat very early levels of ocean keeps and various different things to win the novice tournament. Actually just unlocks a few different areas of the game for you. So it's definitely a nice thing to do.
Okay, so the way that then I broke this down, and where I go a bit different from what you were saying here, is that I've sort of split I think you consider some of the mid game to be some of the, what I'm calling the core early game. But for me, the super early game is, for me, the worst part of this game, where I think a lot of people quit, which is that time where it's like getting your first 4 to 5 60s, where basically every single team is the same 4 or 5 champions. Arena, Dragon, Spider. It doesn't matter where you are. It's all the same champs. And it's doing that grind to get them their masteries, to get them leveled up, to get their gear up. It's just doing that grind over and over for the same few champions. And there's not much changing. And then I think what I'm calling the...
Just on that point, do you think... Because Raid's a much bigger game than it was 3 years ago in terms of number of champions, and obviously some people now are super end game. Would you say that Raid should put some mechanics in to speed up that first 460s, 560s, whatever, just to push people past that pain point? Because that is a real pain point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like, I think definitely, because like by the time you get your first 60, that's 1 to 2 weeks in, you can do brutal 12-3, which is your best way to farm, but you're not going to be clearing it half as fast as someone who's later in the game, and you're not going to have access to like the 5-star chickens from advanced quests or from Doom Tower, stuff that later players, or tournaments and things that later players will have. And like, it's still a massive grind, isn't like a late game, end game player to get a champion up to 6-star. It's really painful for a new player. So yeah, I 100% think they should put in like even just some, I know the login rewards are pretty generous for the early game players. Yeah. But it'd be cool if there were some nice little tournaments on, or like events where you could earn.
Yeah, it feels like there needs to be a lot more 5-star chickens.
Yes.
Just given out, or either their own tournaments, like early, like super early game player tournaments type of things, or the login rewards perhaps get a little bit revised to have more 5-star chickens. So that's brutal. That part is really brutal.
Yeah. So the way I sort of split this up, and I'm very curious to hear, because you've got so much experience with this in terms of where you might expect to be now with Clanbot. Because like beginner, you're just getting your first champion to 60. You're not looking at other areas. Yeah. So let's break that down. But the way I split this up here is just, I think getting those first few champions to 60 is that super early game. Every team is the same. And then for me, that sort of core early game, which is the big part, begins when you make that leap and you finally go, I'm going to take out whatever champion this is, and they're going on the bench for the first time ever, because I now have a specialist coming in. It's like, okay, whatever, starter champion, well, probably not your starter, but champion X, get out of the Spider team, Armorger is coming in as a turn meter specialist, something like that to mix it up. And for me, that was where the game actually started to get fun, which is like, okay, now I can actually build different teams, and these new champions, I can actually build them up and I can actually do stuff, and the dungeons start to look different. But I found this bit really rough. But what do you think?
So I guess like the super early game where you're talking about 4 to 5 60s.
Yeah,
I would expect that person to be at least on hard clan boss.
Yeah.
That's my view. So basically, anyone that you level up first, I think should be someone that is capable of doing stuff in clan boss, and anyone that you level up in those kind of early days needs to have masteries, which then help them get some damage away in clan boss. If you don't do masteries, then actually having 4 to 5 60s will not help you get to hard clan boss.
Yeah.
But yeah, hard stroke brutal, I actually think is probably 4 to 5 60 area.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Like, that was something I didn't understand when I first started playing, and like I think in my clan boss team I had Seeker and I had Frozen Banshee, but I had them both at 50 for the longest time, and I just had no idea that I was missing out on damage so much from War Master, and of course then healing from Leech and Lifesteal sets that comes from War Master that would have let me push much harder. I put clan boss as pretty much the number one thing here, because I think we're probably both agreed on that. It's got to be the number.
And the reason
thing
for that is and it's basically you get daily good rewards. Yeah, so if you try to push, you want to be the arena specialist, fine, do that, but you get weekly poor rewards for arena versus daily good rewards for clan boss. Like it's such, it's chalk and cheese in terms of in progressing an account to kind of go further.
Yeah, you're probably into Silver Arena pretty much when you get your first 60, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just about, yeah.
Just about getting into Silver. And we're probably still in Silver for most of the early game. It's probably getting to Gold and getting Arbiter is probably more pushing into mid-game stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it depends how well you know the game. So if I compare it to my free-to-play right now, I've just hit 660.
Yeah.
Literally just done it, and I've just moved onto night. So I'm on Brutal Stroke Nightmare Clan Boss. So it's I'm kind of in line with this. But then I would probably see myself as a more established player than most people that are watching. So probably Brutal's about fair.
Yeah.
And I'm probably sitting in early Gold Arena, but with the changes that they've made to Arena. So maybe Silver. Yeah, I think that's probably about right.
Okay,
Silver.
cool.
Because you've got a Nuka who is a level 60, who's going to be your starter champion and your farmer. So as long as you've got that for Arena, you should be able to push somewhere with other people at kind of, relatively 50s or whatever.
Yeah. In terms of the dungeons, how far are you? So you're just about getting into like Nightmare Clan Boss right now. How far are you in like the different dungeons? It's probably quite different across like Dragon versus Spider.
It really is. Yeah. So I've actually just for the first time cleared Dragon 20, but I'd say I'm more like a Dragon 17.
Okay.
As a kind of comfortable run. But then the other ones are much lower. So we're talking level 13 of Fire Knight, level about 15 of Ice Golem, and probably about 13 of Spider as like a comfortable clear.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I would sort of expect that sort of similar thing. I thought it was actually really interesting when you look at the drop rate and stats and stuff for doing fusions, which is another question to throw in here. Yeah, fusions. I think actually once you get to stage 11, it's actually pretty efficient. It's not as good. I think it's 11, 16, and 20 are the best stages for tournaments and dungeon divers. 20 obviously being the best one. But so like you could be farming stage 16 Dragon at this point, and then maybe 16 Ice Golem's not crazy far off, and then you'd probably be looking at 11 for Fire Knight and Spider. But the fusion is doable.
And I'd always say as well, like once you can farm a stage 10, at least you're getting an option of 5-star gear.
Yeah.
Because gear is a big kind of limiter in terms of how you are able to progress through the game. And a lot of people will waste silver on 3 or 4-star gear when really there's not many situations where I'd say that 4-star gear is the piece to go for. You really want to start to kind of work on 5-star or better gear.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes. That's probably the big part where you click that filter select all, you get the 4, 3, 2 and 1-star gear, and just boom, clear it all out.
Clear it out. Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's pretty. So did you do any fusions yet on the free to play? Did you?
Yeah, so I did. I've done one fusion.
Okay, wow.
Which pretty much I'd say it was probably about this sort of point, about 4 or 5 champions.
Yeah.
Farming around stage 13 across the board when I did the first fusion.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was able to do it, but it pretty much rinsed me of all of my resources. Mainly, my gem count went from like 1500 to nigh on 0. My shards dropped to 0. And that's just a free to player. So obviously, if you do invest any money, then
it gets
a bit easier.
Yeah. I'm going to say probably about, because I think you're just over 3 months in, but then I'm going to say you probably did it about 2 months in on the fusion. I think for a new player that doesn't have all that knowledge, I give them at least an extra 50% time. Give them the 3 months.
3 months is probably about where you'd be starting to think about. And we kind of mentioned it on my other video, but
yes, we did.
A lot of people will try and do a fusion and they'll half do all of the fusions. I think it's really dangerous at this point of the game to throw all of your resources into gaining 20 or 30 fragments towards a fragment collector or a fusion. Because they don't actually realize that they never come back. Most games like this, you'll be like, well, I'll collect 20 fragments and then next time when it comes back again, I'll collect another 20. They don't come back. Raid doesn't do it that way. It's like all or nothing.
Pretty much. I still have 35 Dracul the Gaunt fragments sitting here.
This is it.
So that happens. Cool. Okay. Now, what I'm calling the mid game, for me, it gets a little bit vague, I guess, in terms of switching from early to mid game. But to nail it down, I think for mid game, for me, is where you're really making that push for Arbiter, like push for Arbiter. So you're going it's aiming for like that gold arena. You're going for the dungeons 20, and definitely Nightmare clan boss. Oh my god, typing is hard. Nightmare clan boss. I'd say, and the mid game I think is really broad, right? So I think that's probably what I'm looking for, and I think, I don't know how long do you think that this roughly lasts? Like from where you are now, how long do you, because you've done these free to play series.
This is quite a big spell of time actually.
Yeah,
this is probably another 3 months of playing.
Yeah.
I think because push for Arbiter, getting to the level 20 stuff like Spider can be pretty damn tough unless you got the right champions to do it. Probably I'd say as well in this same time period you maybe started to beat normal Doom Tower.
Yes, that was one thing I wanted to ask for sure. Do you think you could actually take it all down?
Yeah, I think so. So I'm hitting about stage 60 right now.
Is that 60 or 16?
60.
Cool.
This kind of what you classed as a kind of early game.
So,
early. So yeah, I think for mid game, probably just about pushing towards the top of a normal Doom Tower at least.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to throw in, which was really intriguing to me, was a video that you did a couple of days ago now, which was on your free to play. You'd actually gone in and you got the for the first time ever, the first chest, the lowest chest, but still a chest, kind of really good gear in it from Hydra, which is kind of nuts.
Which is madness, actually. So I did it as a bit of a joke, saying, "No, I'm going to hit Hydra now," and quite surprised. So obviously, Hydra's just changed, and they reduced some of the stats on the different Hydra heads. They've made the fight just a little bit more accessible, and I think now, I mean, there's nothing to stop me just doing at least that first chest every week, and you start to get rewards, you start to get some of the gear sets, and I mean it's a very slow grind at that point, but you start to get some fragments from Mithrala as well, which
that's it.
I mean, I don't have a legendary yet on the free to play, so why not?
I guess that's one of the things as well, is that because your teams are so weak at that point in the game, at least the runs are going to be really fast. It's a very small time investment.
It was definitely fast, but we got some damage away.
So I'm thinking, now I'm not sure because I haven't tested this, but I think that by the time you're around this point, and especially when you start getting these champions during this sort of like 3 to 6 or maybe 9 months sort of period, I think that's when you could probably actually start getting that top chest of normal now, right? Because especially when you get Drexstar.
Drex is the big ticket. One of those names, I would say.
And then like of course you get Syl 6 months in. Drexstar is, what's it, 20?
It's 100. Yeah, it's 100 pieces, isn't it, of the the 3 versus 3. And actually, we've not mentioned 3v3 at all, but right from the off, I collect, or I win battles right from the off. Yeah. But weirdly, I don't think you really progress past bronze.
No.
Quite a long time. Like you win battles, you start to get Drexar fragments literally from that core early game, every day. For anyone watching this who doesn't know, you cannot buy 100 fragments at the same time. You have to buy one a day.
Every day to buy them. But like you should get him around this point. I think you can get Yannicka.
I think so.
Have you been buying Yannicka in the clan shop?
I was interested. You wrote Yannicka there. I don't really see Yannicka as a preference for me.
Interesting.
But it might be for others. And again, it's a champion collector game, and some people will hard push for the champions. I actually think buying the artifacts is a much better use of your clan gold as an early player, because you can't really beat high levels of Spider. So to buy those accessories, which you get 5 or 6 star accessories really early in the game, is actually massive, in my opinion. So that's what and actually
that's fair.
Kind of in the super early part of the game, I recommend buying the energy. So from that clan gold. So the 100 clan gold for 100 energy in your very early game, I thought was good value, but it kind of tails off when you get into this mid game section.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a very good point. Like it's a nice thing actually for those early game players. Like when I started, there was no CVC, so accessories is like, how do you get them? It was a nightmare getting through Spider. Because now at least you've got, you might get lucky. I mean, if you pull out a 5-star accuracy banner, like your life just got 10 times easier.
Definitely.
So yeah, cool. Yeah. But I think definitely, yeah, like you said, Drexar, I think that Hydra normal is going to be pretty doable. And I think for Hydra hard, I think you just leave it for ages, because I think Hydra hard's a lot harder. I think that's more late game, maybe even end game. I
think it's end game. I think that the step up from normal to hard is pretty damn extreme. Yeah. I think you just keep going with that Hydra normal top chest for a while.
Yeah, for a long time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because like getting your Ultra Nightmare clan boss, starting work on Doom Tower hard, that stuff comes in more. I guess that for me is like sort of late game then. It's what I'm sort of classifying that on is... I think late game is where, you've got the dungeons level 20 on farm. I don't know, what do we think? I think this is where you start pushing up into Doom Tower hard.
Yeah.
Would probably be actually beating Doom Tower hard. I think probably getting Lydia and Mithrala is something that's sort of very late game when you actually unlock those champs. I'm curious now actually when you will unlock Mithrala.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder...
It might be earlier.
Yes, it might be that it's a bit earlier than that now. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be around that sort of time. Yeah.
Like if we think about trying to get through Doom Tower hard, like Mithrala is going to make that a lot easier as well. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting
Interestingly,
change.
With Doom Tower, would you say there's obviously different rotations? It feels to me like all of the Doom Tower rotations without Bommel fit here.
Yeah.
I actually think when there's a Bommel in the rotation, they tend to be more endgame.
Yeah.
it tends to be harder. It just tends to be harder. Like a lot of people struggle with Bommel a ton.
Yeah,
even with some of the changes that were made to him. I think it's still very like champion specific.
I see, so yeah, Ultra Nightmare clan boss for sure. Maybe even both. That's going to be a defining thing as well.
Yeah. Yes, you start to get those rewards daily, which is massive. Just getting the Ultra Nightmare clan boss chests every single day.
Yeah. Multiple legendaries really at this point for sure as well. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's probably, you probably have Mithrala unlocked and probably working on Lydia. That's probably the sort of defining thing, I guess, is actually beating faction wars. Is probably something you do probably before some of the Doom Tower stuff. Like you might get stuck easily.
Possibly. I mean, you certainly start to get some of the Doom Tower champions. So you would definitely have like a helmet from the normal Doom Tower, and I think perhaps you've got Thea coming through. Some of those kind of the initial champions that you get from beating Doom Tower secret rooms.
Yeah. When do you think that I'm noticing in your thing here, you're saying for the faction wars, you're looking to get 17 plus. When do you think you beat your first sort of stage 21?
Well, I think it probably is at this sort of stage, or maybe it's kind of in between mid game and late game. You might have so what I would suggest you do is like if you've got 5 core good champions for a faction, then actually you might be able to just go and beat that faction a long time before everything else.
Yeah.
Certainly once you've got your Arbiter, it becomes easier to do high elves. Barbarians is one of those ones that you get High Katoon, you get Scylla the Drakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't take too much more from that point on to be able to beat a barbarian team. Yeah. So
High Elves is going to be the first for anyone who's watching this now, I'd say, because you're going to have Deliana and Arbiter.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then it doesn't actually take a lot else. If you've got Yannicka as well, High Elves is just like a breeze. Yeah. Yeah,
you just smash through, no problem. Yeah, throw in some rares like Apothecary, Reliquary Tender, Tyrell if you got him, I guess, for Alexander, if any. Oh man. Yeah. I used him for a bit. He's on the bench now. Second Royal Guard has replaced him. But yeah, so we're getting in that. And then like for endgame, I'd almost separate endgame into like super end. I think super endgame is like
it's almost a different game.
Literally everything. Yeah.
But super endgame really is just do you want to try and compete in Plat Arena?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only place where super endgame really exists. or you're trying to do like for you personal record type stuff. So for me, super endgame is like I want to build the most interesting clan boss teams that I can. I want to get my own personal records in clan boss, and that's the area of the game that I find the most enjoyable.
And
push yourself in those type of different things.
Yeah, like for me, I feel like I'm sort of pushing into some of this now, like especially being part of the CC program. So I feel like one of the big parts of a super endgame is where you're building champions not because you need them for anything, but just because they're fun.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be a defining thing. Well, actually, another defining thing. I wonder, maybe it comes in late game, or maybe it's the mark of the end game. It's where you sit down, you do that filter, select all, and you sell all your 5-star gear. Pretty much.
Oh yeah,
that's gotta be one.
You don't even look at it.
Yeah, it's like
or when you're doing your multi battles, if you use multi battles.
Yep. Sell
5-star gear is instant sell.
Yeah, that's what I do.
It doesn't even come into your account.
Yeah, and like it's probably bad. Like you're probably missing. I know for me, I'm missing some upgrades. Like I could get triple roll speeds on some 5-star gear, but I'm lazy, so I'm like, you know what, just auto sell it.
Do you think as well in that sort of end game period, it's like silver is no longer really an object?
You can see my silver count here. I've got 200,000. I've never been rich. I never have any silver. I'm always short. Always.
Oh, are you? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Always short.
Maybe it's a super end game thing then, because basically I can blast through Spider for a couple of days, and then my silver just flies up.
Yeah. I'm not quite there yet for me. So to put it in context, I've been playing for somewhere between 1.5 years and 2 years now. I haven't quite reached the 2 years. I'll be in a few months. Yeah. But no, I'm still at the point where I've been mostly farming like campaign. My most farmed dungeon, like in the raid recap video, was still Minotaur by a factor of at least 10. It was like maybe 2,000 spider runs and 15,000 Minotaur, something crazy. I'm still at that point, but I can now see in the near horizon getting to that point where I'm like, oh, I have a lot of the champions are leveled up and they're masteried, and now I'm switching into that dungeon farming, but I haven't quite got there yet. Like dungeon farming, I've been spending a hell of a lot of time just leveling stuff up, because you need so many champions for Doom Tower, for Faction Wars, for Hydra, for Arena. haven't quite got there, but
I do think it's worth putting into the end game.
Yeah,
everyone you build should be a specialist.
Yes, yeah,
and that's actually a massive difference. So every single build, every mastery setup you do, it's like, I'm building this champion for this role.
Yeah. And
you stop having that kind of generic mastery build, that generic setup for your champion. You start, like you've got here, you start having the team setups being done. And they've all got their own role and they've got their own position in the team. Yeah. That's a big change, actually.
Yeah. So to put, like, I just got Romantu recently. I just did a video on him yesterday where I had him set up like this, where my Foley is 172 speed. I had a really slow Romantu, at 173. So it was like really trying to do that specialist thing of going, okay, let's test him out as a specialist champion who cleanses and nukes them a bit before the Foley comes in and tries to kill them. I've actually switched that up since then. He's gone the opposite way, where Gaius is 252, and he's actually maybe a little bit too fast at 259. It would be 253 would be perfect. But like speed tuning so that Arbiter boost, my Arbiter's really slow, by the way. It's embarrassing. But then Romantu comes in, strips the buffs, and then Gaius, who's not booked, so it doesn't quite work. But when he is booked, it will. Gaius comes and sleeps them. And it's like they are speed tuned together. So it's like when I'm building Romantu, it's like I'm not building him as just like some generic champion. It's like I'm building him specifically for my Arbiter team for Arena and the specific speeds and stats that he needs to go in that exact team. So I think that's
you tend to find that you've got less champions that have just got All Master as their final mastering. And you start to use a lot of the tier 6 masteries for 100%. Different reasons.
Yeah, if I go back,
and that's actually a fun thing to do, because then you start to really get into the cool nuts and bolts of what this game is. That's why this game is easily the best in this genre.
Yep,
because there's so many options of how you can teams.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty cool overview. It's obviously, it gets trickier to nail stuff down when you get that mid game and towards late game, because it's like, what champions will you have? Is that question mark, because it's random. For early game, it's like everyone's got their starter and they've got their War Maiden. If Apothecary, if they're lucky. I didn't get him until I was way later in the game.
I always seem to get him within the first week.
It's that content creator. It's a fix. Yeah. I started getting comments on videos saying my shard pull rates were the content creator perks before I was even in the program. So that was really sneaky of Plarium. Yeah. Sneaky dogs. Can you believe it? Yeah. But Yeah, so there we go, like a lot here in the early game. And again, guys, also link, of course, a HellHades article here, which goes over actually more stuff in more detail. Like you've got some really cool stuff in this article, such as like the types of champions that you want to have in there, and like, you know, where you can farm campaign and how to make those decisions and daily there's really good stuff there too. But I think it's just fun to look at it and sort of break down.
Yeah, because actually, like you say, that was a 2020 article, and probably, I mean, the game has developed since then. There's new game modes. In fact, it really needs a bit of a look. But yeah, no, it's fun to do.
Yeah. It's certainly, I'm very intrigued to see where Hydra goes, because like before, if we'd recorded this video like a week ago, it would have been like, don't even bother until you're like it's like, you know what, don't even really just throw in some random champions. When you get Lydia, then, you know, maybe you can start looking at it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but now it's different. Like now I think, like we said, you get that normal chest in that mid game, you know, about 6-ish months in with Draxstar, and you can actually throw in some good legendaries and stuff, and then just leave it. Just leave it, probably. But yeah, there we go. So thank you so much for joining me and giving me your thoughts.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's very cool. And guys, make sure to check out HellHades' channel. Link will be in the description and the comments down below. Again, we did a video on his channel as well, where we went over the mistakes that a lot of us make when we're playing this game, how to avoid them and save yourself a whole lot of stress, and, you know, help yourself progress through this stuff a little bit faster as well. So yeah, thanks for joining.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.